Hello, hello. Hey, guys. Welcome back. All right. So, first off, if you are in my time zone, then you know that we will be starting to celebrate the full moon tonight at 11:55 p.m. So this could be a bit of a full moon message, but this is a specific message. Now, I almost was going to do this yesterday, but I was like, I don't know, is it coming through strong enough? And today it's still in my head, so we're going to rock with it. And yes, these are my favorite ones. Actually, I prefer these the most because they're such wild cards. But what I had in my mind, and this started yesterday and then carried into today, but kind of expanded. I kept picturing like a greasy countertop, not like somebody's a bad housekeeper or anything, but you get smudges of like mayonnaise and stuff and you didn't realize you dropped a little blob, and then somehow you always wind up transferring it to like a smudge, and pretty soon you notice it's like on your counter or your like cupboard, or you transfer it accidentally to a window, and then pretty soon it was like smudges on the inside of a car window of fingerprints, or a window like of a door, and then it shifted into like a blob of like the heavy like mechanical grease that they use specifically like on engines and stuff, or if they're like threading things they use like some kind of mechanical grease, and so it's usually kind of like dirty looking. But all of it had, yes, a smudgy dirty concept was in my mind, obviously, in lots of different ways, but it was always something greasy. And anything that's like greasy, if it's like, we like that sometimes, or well, not really like the greasy feel, but we like something that's going to like stay on our skin if we want to hydrate our skin. But this was not exactly that. This was like a little bit of a mess that we didn't realize that then smudged everything else up. So this could be, maybe somebody, there's a metaphor for like scattered thoughts or things that without meaning to, you drop this, you carry that, you transfer that, and it's kind of accidental, that it gets spread all over the place. We'll see. We have a 7 of Wands. Now, it could just be that somebody needs to tidy up, but I doubt it's that simple. 7 of Wands is this person has reached the end of what they were trying to follow because there's no more pathway. They've been hiking along and they thought they'd cross this maybe roaring river here or babbling brook, but they chose a path where obviously the log doesn't go across the river. So they're going to have to backtrack. This is how we overcome an obstacle. Now, the great thing is that this person has reached a slightly higher vantage point and a break in the trees, and now they can kind of look up and down the river and maybe spot the next best way to approach. But it does feel like somebody needs to, maybe we need to backtrack and clean the counter, wash some grease off of this, wash the smudges off of things, wash the smudges off of our windows so we can see more clearly. Maybe that's the way to look at this. Just because we hit a moment where we go, okay, I thought I was going to do this, but crap, how do I move forward? In order to move forward, sometimes we have to move back first, right? In order to be ready to like prep your next meal, you got to clean your kitchen countertop of the previous, whatever juices and whatnot. So, if you're going to drive your car, you got to make sure the windows, you can see out of. So maybe it's time to backtrack just a smidge and do some tidying up. We've got the 9 of Wands. We've got the 3 of Wands. Okay, so we keep seeing a divine masculine who's clearly on a journey, right? And I say that with confidence because this is all minor arcana. And to me, the minor arcana are somebody on a journey. So we're going to go ahead and say he's moving toward something. And he's kind of at a point where he needed to backtrack just a smidge because maybe he wasn't ready for the next, to leap across that river. Maybe he needed to come back to center for just a moment and then regroup. The 3 of Wands talks about the upcoming future, but you notice that he needs to consult, in this case, with the Morai or the Fates. And in Greek mythology, they were the 3 crone sisters that were responsible for giving mortals their lifespan. So the one sister would spin this golden thread, the next sister would pull the thread, and then the third sister would be the one responsible for clipping the thread. And that represented a human's lifespan. But it almost feels like he needs to consult. Oh, there's a really great song, hang on, that actually kind of talks about that in a very poetic way by Led Zeppelin. It was actually a song about his son, I believe, and I can't think of it for the life of me, and I love the song, but in any case, the words golden thread are in it, so look up Led Zeppelin song with golden thread. But and so poetic and so meaningful, and so much more to his lyrics. He's amazing. You think he's just a hard rocker? No, super deep. But I'm sorry that my baby is just, he was so quiet and now he's awakened again. He's awakened the furies. But this feels like he needed to consult, what do I go with next? Where do I go next? Because this path is not leading him where it's supposed to. He needed to regroup. Now, maybe it's only because he himself needed to heal a little bit more before he continues on a journey. Or maybe he was about to take the wrong, we'll say, off ramp, you know? One time, as I was, the only time, in fact, I ever traveled up to Canada, I so foolishly, you know, Canada's enormous. And I kind of blew past an exit by like quite a few miles that I needed. And I was like, oh, no big deal. I'll just take this other exit to cross the border into Canada. Those roads don't intersect again the way I thought they were going to. So I had to eventually backtrack back across the border and then go back down to my original crossing. And anyway, long story short, but I missed the car ferry, missed a night in the cabin I had rented up at Arrow Lake, but eventually I still did get there. But that cost me. It cost me money. It cost me time. Sometimes it's better to backtrack when, instead of assume we can, well, maybe there will be some other easy shortcut way. Sometimes there's not. Sometimes you need to do it the right way, and the more you prolong that and resist it, the more time and money it's going to cost you. So to his credit, he's on a journey and he knows, I've come to a point where I'm not sure, do I proceed this way? I think I need to backtrack a little bit. I think I need to consult. Maybe there's even a waiting time, or maybe I need to choose a slightly different angle. We got the moon, and this is full moon, obviously. And these dogs are sitting there consulting each other too. They're kind of rump to rump here, which could be nice because they could be like having each other's backs. But where is his confusion? Let me just ask this. Divine Masculine, what is it that you want? What is your destination? By the way, somebody could have a border collie. Those are both border collies. We got super intelligent dogs. 8 of Wands. What he wants is to talk to her. He wants to talk to the divine feminine, somebody that he sees as like destination her. Okay. She could be a blonde, doesn't have to be. She could have long hair, doesn't have to. She may have some kind of like corona of light that stands out from behind her, as you can see in this card. He may see her as somebody that like illuminates darkness for him. I'm not saying he's lost in the dark exactly, but we definitely see him. He could like hiking. He may be carrying a backpack or some kind of like, what do you call those, courier bags or something. He might be taking a walk someplace today and considering things, considering how he proceeds. He may get to, a set of columns or be entering a building where you got to pick which one of the pillars you're going to walk between. And that could be very like meaningful for him. He may have to pause and go, this is interesting. It's like a metaphor for me, wondering which route to take. I feel like on this walk, really what it is it's a journey through his mind, through this labyrinth of how he was going to approach her. He suddenly is backtracking from, and he's realizing there may be a different route that he should take. There may be a different way for him to connect to something, connect his thoughts to what she's, the best way to approach her. But he is kind of a little bit lost at the moment in his mind. What is it? Tell me about the moon. We have got the Queen of Swords, and it is sideways. We can see why he's lost. He doesn't quite know how to approach her or how to talk to her, is what it says. Maybe he doesn't know where her thoughts are, where her humor is. There's something here about, he just doesn't know about her. So how do I talk to somebody that I don't know I'm going to be received? I don't really know her well enough or know her response or her ideas on things. 9 of Swords upright, 6 of Pentacles upright. With the 9 of Swords upright, he's stressing about this because he really was like about to connect with her. And then it almost feels like he's going back to the drawing board. He's wanting to write something else down. He's thinking about things all over again. But darling, what did you want to say to her? How about we get there? How about we just get there? By the way, somebody in a red cloak or cape or scarf or something could play a role in this. Could have like a friend or somebody who like read the message he was going to send that now he's like, I don't think I should. I don't know if this will come out right. He's very contemplative about his words. Very, very contemplative about his words. Let me just maybe simplify it. What is it that you would like to say? I say simplify, and then I'm going to go for a complex deck. But, oh well, here we go. Hi, everyone. We've got, okay, 8 of Wands. What's he want to say? Well, he wants to say words. 8 of Wands is communication. He wants to, what I would say is open up the ability for these two to have dialogue. That it's as simple as that, an open doorway of back and forth communication. I mean, ultimately, I do think he may want to even travel to see her. There's something here, though, that more than anything, he wants to establish open lines of communication, but like important communication, because we have somebody who looks like a holy man or somebody here. Doesn't matter what religious background, but it's like he wants to be able to have like a connection, an opening of like a spiritual dialogue, meaning, I mean, obviously he's thinking a lot about this. This is a fellow who is like in the catacombs of his mind and can't figure out like how to approach. But what he wants is to basically establish the chance to like talk about things that are real, that are meaningful, but maybe also to express the fact that it feels like there's a spiritual bond here. If that is the case, I could see how that would be scary for him. Like, how do I say, I feel a spiritual bond to you? I feel a psychic bond to you. Like, well, you could just say it, but I can see why he's like, I don't know. And especially now that he's like with the Queen of Swords being sideways, I don't know. Let me just look at this. The World. Again, with this desire to connect and have a different energy flow between the two of them. I think it's almost like wanting to be able to talk about anything under the sun. The world encompasses everything, everyone. It's like, I just want somebody I can communicate all my thoughts to. I'd like a new beginning where I establish like genuine like contact. Now, I don't know if he's had contact with this person before. We do have this image of the world, and it's very much like a tip of the hat to like the Atlas holding the world on his back. That makes me think of the Farnese Atlas, which is an ancient sculpture that was actually, I mean, it's basically this image, Atlas holding the world on his back, but it wasn't really the world. It was actually the carvings were of the sky, the night sky, seen like from the inside, but seen it externally. But it was done at a point in time where they use it as a pretty good marker to know how far like the Greeks and Italians had traveled, because they only could see the certain areas of the night sky that they had traveled to. So it denoted like, okay, so this group of people had not populated or traveled further into the southern hemispheres because they didn't have all the constellations and all the stars marked. And so like right where the celestial globe sits on his shoulders is kind of like where there was also no more constellations. And so I just always thought that was an interesting side note, that this means so much more. This particular image means so much more if you read up on it. And so I'm wondering if that's the other kind of context of what he'd like to have somebody he can talk to about all kinds of things that have so much more depth to meaning, an open dialogue where it's like plumbing through. I feel like this is a divine masculine who like really wants like verbal companionship. I'm not saying he only wants a pen pal, but the kind of connection where you can talk about these meanings and layers of meanings and depth of connection and depth of comprehension, because I do feel like there's a lot on this character's mind. I mean, obviously he's like the most cerebral like journey through the brain ever. Like all of these cards are like the journey, the hidden, the subconscious. He lives in the subconscious. He lives in the metaphor. He lives in that space. And he kind of wants to talk to her, maybe specifically because she's got a very analytical brain. But again, there's this part of him that it's like, but I don't know if the way I would approach with that, is she more like big brain logical, or will she comprehend my metaphorical subconscious brain? Look, he's drawn to her for a reason. So clearly he already knows the answer to that. Sometimes I think he makes himself feel murky is what I get from this character. He knows what he wants. He wants to talk to somebody he finds intriguing. Is this love, or is this friendship, or is this like respect of the brain, which is it? We've got King of Pentacles. It's a little of everything. So a king wants to get busy making honey on one hand. So there's attraction here for sure, because we got sweetness. But there's also a huge sense of respect. We can even see with his posturing, with his stance, with his clothing. There's this huge sense of respect that he has for her, or for her mind. There is an energy of like wanting to work together though. And I think for him, part of it is like to build a bond that's based on like mental understanding, but also because obviously he sees her as very sweet. So why are you getting confused then, King? Because it seems like every time that I dig in, you have a very clear vision. So where are you getting confused? The Force card, which in this deck, it's card 11, but instead of it being Justice, this is actually the Strength card. And they swapped and put Justice as number 8. Some decks do that. But there's something here, like, is he worried that he would be coming on too strong? Is he worried that he would be pushing his way into her world when that's not what she wants? He may just be stressing himself out that he would come on too strong. Let me get another on that, because that seems very simplistic, even though I understand he's trying to be super respectful, but sideways card, serious? We get the 8 of Swords sideways. It's always tough when I'm trying to get clarity on something and we get sideways cards, because I'm like, and there's no clarity here. Okay, so 8 of Swords is stuck energy, but we do have the Year of the Serpent, and that Cobra is right here sneaking up behind her. And maybe that's the other thing. He's like, I don't know, maybe it would be disrespectful for me to like slide into her DMs, or, maybe she wouldn't want me to do that. Would it feel like I'm sneaking up behind her? I don't think that at all. I think that this is ridiculous that he's so worried about this. Knight of Cups. This says you got to take action. Everybody's got to take action for anything that they would want in their life, especially something that we want emotionally to be fulfilled. And that's really what our entire lifespan is about. What drives us forward? Well, I guess it's not always our emotions, but let's say our desire for things, our attachment to things. But I think this is one of the nicest reasons to be motivated to move forward. Like, for an emotional, positive purpose, to offer kind emotions to another person. He thinks really highly of her. What is he intimidated about when it comes to her? By the way, we've got an ice cube that could be like this could represent him. He stalls himself out. He has great ideas that expand, and then he puts it into ice. He may stop himself from doing many great things or great ideas in his life, or expressing himself. He may stop himself from that pretty frequently with anyone and everyone in his life. He may have an expanding emotion and then he freezes it. Maybe this is like a learned behavior on his part, so that he doesn't make a misstep, say something that somebody wouldn't want to hear, or get, like maybe he's been like chewed up for having spoken in the past. We have the art card, which is a temperance card sideways. When I said, what is it that he's like, if he's intimidated by her, I get that vibe just because of this question mark about her and the moon being there, but yet he really wants to talk to her. It feels like there's a little bit of an intimidation, or he worries somehow about how I should approach. And I love this particular temperance card because we see like this ghost town, but then in this picture frame, we see the more important thing, which is the hands of the divine are up here in the cosmos, dealing out some cards, like kind of playing poker. And it almost feels like part of him says, I feel like I came across her for a reason. I feel like she stands out to me in this otherwise ghost town for a reason. So the hand of the divine had to have played a role in me coming across her, right? But what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? So it's not really that he's intimidated by her. He's intimidated by his own like ability to confidently say, no, I met this person for a reason. I'm going to be friends with this person. Sometimes, how you just meet people or you don't even interact with them, but you just know that's somebody I would get along great with. That's somebody I could really connect to. That's someone I already know I connect to. It doesn't make sense, but that's how attraction works, or maybe that's how like-mindedness works, or kindred spirits work. You meet people and you just know. And sometimes it's like it's a one-way track until you're actually around them. You see them or something, you go, that person, they're amazing. I just know that they're the kind of person I would vibe with in, if we had like one-on-one contact. And you know what? I think that's always correct. At least in my life, that's always been correct. I don't think that there's ever been anybody that like, if they're on my radar, it's like I'm on theirs too. There's something about that where it's like you already know that you're friends. Ace of Cups. Again, this kind of vibe where here is the real concern about this. It's that whether or not it makes any sense, there is a certain amount of emotion that he already has for her. Now, this could be love that is purely platonic, love of from one human to another. We already saw him knowing that there's something sweet there with the honeycomb. By the way, somebody might like honey, or like the beverage it's sweetened with honey or agave or something like that. I always think of this as like a lime and tonic water or something, but it could be we've got some other like colored liquid down here in the bottom of the glass. So who knows? This could be a mixed drink of sorts, but that could be a metaphor for her. Like she's a, whatever, a cool drink to him. But this is the other reason he'd have some measure of, I don't really want to use the word intimidation, but like a mistrust of his own feelings, because did I cross this person's path for a reason? Do I want to reach out to her because I really feel he's a kindred spirit? Or is it because I have an attraction to her? You notice that the eye is here. There's something here. Maybe she's got really nice eyes, or he's just simply noticed something about her. And it's like, once you get drawn into something that you think is attractive, you keep looking. And I think he's like, I don't know, this could be my emotions talking instead of me really being able to trust that there is some divine counterpart here. Somebody could play cards or poker. Maybe these are tarot cards. But it also, we have kind of like a tip of the hat to the Old West, the old Western ghost towns, which are so awesome. But all of this, and water, lake, a stream, someplace that has that kind of like a baby waterfall going through it. And we started that out with a bit of a cascading, river or gorge or something here as well. So flowing water is just a great metaphor for emotions, but we can see that it's kind of a tidal wave. It's a lot that when he thinks of her that tumbles through him. So we can see why he's nervous in this storyline. But in order for him to proceed, he does need to backtrack. But now I'm thinking the reason he has to backtrack for a moment is because he's getting himself confused, and he's starting to question whether or not there is some, bond here or not, even though I believe he already knows that there is. So what is going to be the next step that he takes? I'm not going to say what should he do, because let's just look at what he's going to do. Here we go. Four of Wands. Okay, good. If he's backtracking, it may be to sit with himself. It may be to meditate a little bit, but in a very spiritual way. We have these Egyptian obelisks, and we see them, sending energy either to the cosmos or receiving energy from the cosmos and channeling it into the earth. We see him kind of like maybe coming into center and like getting himself grounded. I would argue this is him getting himself grounded is what he's going to do, which I say that's great. Anytime someone is confused about what to do and they're, I'm famous for confusing myself. I always say I'm a huge Virgo, right? I'm even a double Virgo, and I'm Virgo all over my chart. And I always say, I don't feel like a Virgo. And then I do these things and I'm like, that's why they say I'm a Virgo, analyzing too far, and then having to like scrap it and go back to like, wait, what do I know to be true? And getting to that point is, I think, what he's doing right now, which is awesome. And I can totally understand that. Okay, give me another one here. We've got the Nine of Pentacles. This is awesome because we could look at this almost like a supernova, or we could just say that this is the sun radiating outward. But this is positivity, certainty, abundance. This is like, I feel like as he gets himself grounded and finds the truth, and we'll ask what that truth is for him in just a second. But then after finding it inward, that's why I'm picturing it like a supernova, because, in stars, all of the terrestrial elements that we have here on Earth are made from stars. So, through that, nuclear fission that happens up in stars, we actually can go through like the table of elements, and there's so much pressure that it compresses and it makes each element till they get heavier and heavier until it gets to be like iron, and then the star gets so heavy that it implodes on itself because it kind of like collapses and then busts outwards, and then that's how we wind up with those little nebula and the new little star nurseries. And it's kind of like this constant cycle. But I'm just feeling like this is him getting grounded, which is good, but then like getting so heavy that then it's like we do the reverse. Now it's time to communicate, or now we feel empowered again. So I'm thinking that he's absorbing energy into himself, which is going to give him confidence, which is then going to explode. We've got Justice sideways with a big old sun, and I always think of the Justice card again from the Egyptian concept of Ma'at and Isfet. Oftentimes there's like Isis will be seen on this card, which we actually had like the Isis wings up above here. But in the Egyptian concept of Ma'at and Isfet, they had, I think, a really brilliant idea that, because I think it's true, in the universe we have to have chaos and we have to have harmony. We can't do one without the other. And they kind of looked at like the ocean and water as like the great like mixer, I'll say. And I take that and I say, okay, think of it like this. We have to have a huge amount of variety in life. And when we are created, each one of us gets to express, different genes. We carry a lot of genes, some of which will not be expressed, but our unique combo that maybe we choose to express or we develop, or that is just naturally expressed, that gives us the variety, so that all of us different humans have our own unique spark, our own little je ne sais quoi. And that we need that variety. We need different things to be expressed or suppressed for that variety. And the world is a better place for having so many different kinds of people. But obviously, if you get too much chaos in genetic expression, that can be inhospitable to life. So we have, in that snapshot, I would say that that's a nice way to like consider, why do we need chaos? Why do we need harmony? For the variety, for the spice, but not too much chaos. And I think the same is true, like anything like in our minds, right? We got to have the capacity to think different thoughts. But if we never then, take charge of them, we could just spin ourselves round and round and never do anything, never take any steps forward at all, because we're still too busy hyper analyzing stuff. Okay, so this says, instead of there being like some, problem here, he's realizing this is part of his process. This is an okay part of his process to be moving forward and then to back up a step, do some tidying up of his thoughts, get grounded in what he knows to be true, and then feels abundant. All of that process, that is part of his harmony and his chaos. And I think that it comes out to where that's where he finds truth. So this is just his process. He doesn't need to feel like, oh man, am I messing up? Oh gosh, I got to quit analyzing. He has to analyze maybe a little too far before he reels it back in. And I think he's realizing that is how I find truth for myself. Okay, so what is your truth at this point? The Emperor. Time to open up those damn doors like a boss. He's got something to say. He wants to approach head on, straight forward, connect, speak. He's wearing his best red tunic. Red is a leadership color. It's bold, but there's also green, which is nurturing. Whatever it is that he's got to say, and it could be, his words could be fire. We see him like opening those doorways, those gateways of communication on purpose. Now, the way he does this is he's going to own it. That what I'd like to do is if we backtrack all the way, this is the truth of what he's wanted all along. All he did was walk himself around his brain a couple dozen times to come back to, this is the truth of what I want. I want to open up dialogue because I like this person. Now that he's thought himself through it, the, oh my God, but what ifs, the, I don't know, the, was this divine or am I just attracted or, blah, blah, blah. He comes back around and he's like, I like this person. There, that's what I'm going to say. Good for you. Good for you, character. I love the simplification. Queen of Cups. I really like this person, and I think she's sweet, and I think that is the kind of energy I'd want to talk to and connect to. I'm hoping she's going to want to give to me. This is the mythology of the Selkies. The Selkies are the seals that can come up on land and shed their seal skin and become a usually very beautiful female woman. And then she can hop back into her seal skin and still remain swimming in the ocean. That, to me, I only mention that because there may be a duality to her that is very intrigued by that in her. This might be part of why he's drawn to her intellect, why he wants to talk to her, because it feels like she walks in two worlds and he's intrigued by that. But he also likes that. Maybe she's good at seeing two halves of any story. Maybe she can put herself in someone else's shoes and walk in her own. And that is something that kind of compassion is something that he likes. Or maybe there's in this case, he already knows, yes, he is attracted to her. With that Knight of Cups. This is him definitely wanting to move forward with an emotional offer. I feel like here's the truth of why he's drawn to her is I think he's in a place where even though he's an emperor, there is a sense of loneliness around him. This Knight of Cups, he's playing out here alone in the snow. I always think of this as New York City. This could be his heart song. It could be a metaphor for that, or he could actually be a musician. But he might have gone through kind of a cold time of his life. And what's interesting is those Selkies, the seals are usually the ones that we see in the much colder waters. And for him, it might even be how does she exist in ice cold and on land? How do you swim through both halves of life? It could be something like that, where he kind of sees that she's got a comfort zone or a duality to the way she operates. Maybe she's very comfortable with humanity and sees the good in them, even though there's plenty of bad. Maybe he's been either he's known ostracization in the past, or he's somebody he has a big heart. He's very emotional, obviously, and a deep thinker. But it could be something along the lines of this is one of the other reasons he's drawn to her, is that warmth, that acceptance. He has that in himself as well, but he's definitely gravitating toward that warmth in her. But I feel like there's maybe also because he has something that maybe he could learn from her about being able to walk in both worlds, being able to not let oneself feel so ostracized, even if you are, I don't know if I'm explaining this very well, but there's something here about the duality, and there's a loneliness to him in this. Let's go back over to that Eight of Wands. I mean, ultimately, this whole thing has been, I want to talk to her, which I think is sweet. We have a Three of Wands. Music could be super important to him, or forms of expression. I don't know if she's a bit of a muse for him as well, but this Three of Wands talks about he wants her in his future, and he already knows that. There's, again, against the backdrop of the cosmos, this, when he thinks of her, there's always light around her. There's always warmth around her. Maybe she's like the light on a dark day for him. Maybe he hasn't quite wanted to admit that to himself, but he's hoping to have a lot more of her light in his life in a more prominent and permanent way. And he already sees that future. That could be the other reason why he was a little bit rattled about all this, because he's not actually just thinking about, hey, I just randomly want to chit chat with somebody. It's like he already knows, I want to talk about meaningful things, but I also want her light in my life, and I want it for a long time. That's probably, if you're intuitively knowing that this person could have huge impact in the rest of your life or for many years to come, and you know that from the gate, then of course that is going to add, like we're upping the ante, because now it's like, if I reach out and it goes wrong, it could crush not only today, but the future that maybe he hadn't fully acknowledged in his own mind he wants with her, but he does. This is, even here, we got the arrows, like full stream ahead. Now, this is also the very lusty little springtime maypole going on, lusty month of May. There could be a specific hope that he has for physical contact, physical passion with her, whether or not he's admitted that to himself. We're getting we're in the catacombs of his mind right now. So we have this huge advantage in this storyline of being able to see all the little bits and pieces of stuff that he's tucked off in the corners of his mind, the stuff that's not front and center, everything from the fears to the overanalyzing to the true desires to his true motives. And you know what? I like this person so much. There's not a piece of him that has been anything other than like sincere and trying to do his best. And he has really good vibes toward her. Yes, he has passionate vibes toward her also. That's awesome. All of this looks so good. This looks so amazing. So final cards, I guess we need to take a quick peek at her. There's something coming up in May, or there's a plan, something about May when he'd like to see her. Why is she stressing? Nine of Swords. She's waking up possibly in the wee hours of the night. Four of Wands in the reverse. How interesting. Her concern is like, shall I walk this earth alone? She has some kind of thoughts in her head of, is there nothing out there for me? Justice. Interestingly enough, she's a lonely little sojourner, isn't she? Especially around this full moon. She's sleeping alone. There's nobody on her radar. There's nobody out there for her. There's not any romance. She may never have been married. And we see her saying, it's kind of a Joan of Arc kind of, oh God, every time I see this card, I always think of Patti Smith and the song Kimberly. The wall is high, the black barn, the babe in my arms, and the swaddling clothes, and I know soon. I love that song. But anyways, and I feel like just some misplaced Joan of Arc. Anyway, sorry, great song, amazing song actually. But this just feels very much like she's, I don't know, maybe a lonely rocker chick. I don't know. But she does kind of keep herself protected, because I think she's known some pretty hard moments in her life. She's gotten a raw deal more than a few times that maybe the person she thought she was going to marry actually dumped her and married somebody else. I mean, that's something, that's what makes you put on armor, right? That kind of like injustice, that kind of hurt. She may have had something awful happen at the hands of a Libra. And it's like, well, I know that the way they treated me was wrong. I mean, hey, anybody can choose somebody else, but still, it just feels like if people have taken her time, wasted her precious time, and then moved on kind of brutally, there's probably a reason sometimes you got to wear a suit of armor just to like help prop yourself upright, you know? And it kind of feels like she's had a raw deal. So in her mind, right about now, she's kind of here. He sees her as this light, and she's over here having nightmares. She's a little bit lost in the dark. This couldn't be a better time for him to reach out to her. You know, like if ever she needed this, it's now. Three of Pentacles, Page of Wands. She could use a win right now. She could use this kind of communication. And it's not that just anyone will do. Somebody who's like stable, somebody who knows that they have an interest, somebody who is long-term minded, but there would be a spark that begins. Let me ask this. Do you know who he is? Two of Wands, High Priestess. Yes and no. So she's doing that same thing where she doubts her intuition. Does she know who he is? Yes, a High Priestess knows. A High Priestess knows what isn't said. A High Priestess picks up on what's on the other side of the veil. But she's in this space of saying, no, I mean, I don't know. Yes, you do. No. I'm not sure. The Two of Wands is like, she's at the crossroads. She's uncertain. Oh, no, I could go either way. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. And it's because she's suppressing her inner High Priestess. Why is she doing that? By the way, she could literally have like some heavy spiritualism, crystal ball, maybe into, you know, fringe sciences, or like, oh gosh, I don't want to use the word new age. More just like a spiritualism, like leaning more toward, let's say, Oracle of Delphi-esque. Okay. The Star. I forgot what my question just was for her. This just, to me, all of this says, oh, I asked, why is she doubting this? Why is she like suppressing her internal High Priestess? And this kind of says, well, she's not exactly, I mean, this can be distance. So she could distance herself from things, but she's so connected to the stars anyway that you can try to run from what you know, but you're still going to know it. You can just tune it out. You know, it's like when we won't listen to the inner voice, even though the inner voice is like squawking at us, and we don't want to admit. She could deny lots of things that she knows. Yeah. She puts a lot of effort into denying and blocking signs and signals and symbols that she knows to be true. She's a master at it. By the way, there's just something about this floor that reminds me very much of up in Milan, up around the cathedral there, Milan, Italy. There's like the most beautiful, it's a lot of really high-end shops, but the most beautiful tile floor work and just exquisite floor. But that just reminds me of that. I don't know. It's just a side note there. She may have a tendency to like things that have to do with water, bathing. She may be somebody who like gets a lot of energy recharge from showering and being around water sources. She may really like soaking in mineral waters, mineral content. I'm just seeing there's something like sparkling about the water that she's pouring. And so it makes me think instantly of like mineral water, things that are like higher conductors of energy frequency. She may not even know why she likes that. And it's funny because I'm thinking that maybe highlights her intuition, even though then she has to fight it even harder, which is an ironic thing. It could be why she likes showers and baths and water sources and the ocean and, you know, hot springs and stuff. It may be because she's drawn to heightening her intuition because she's constantly pressing it down. Wheel of Fortune. At some point, she's going to stop. At some point, she's going to quit it, and she's going to hear the internal clock that has been telling her again and again and again, would you just embrace what you are, embrace your intuition, and just roll with the flow? Now, for her, I said before, I think she could really use a win. It's tough because what do you do when you have good intuition, but then you've been played dirty before? That throws off your belief in intuition, maybe even made her angry enough that she didn't want to believe in intuition anymore, because it's like, then why the hell did my intuition steer me toward people that would do me do me dirty. I could see how somebody would be like, yeah, this is all a bunch of BS. Every time I think I know something, guess what? It's a bunch of BS. In fact, my instinct takes me right into the mouth of the lion. That's what I've learned. So if I think I should go right, I should probably go left. She might have gotten to the point where she doesn't trust. The thing is, why do we gravitate towards certain things? If she is empathic as well, and I'm guessing she may be, the need to, like, the desire to get into pools of water that maybe are better conductors, and yet her trying to constantly push things away, block stuff, makes me feel like an empath who needs to like shut down emotions a little bit, because they pick up on what other people want and then confuse it with their own emotions and their own intuition. Like, oh, I feel like this is right for me, when in fact what they're doing is they're, unfortunately, even though they're a powerful intuitive, they're also a powerful empath. So it's like, no, I'm feeling what somebody else wants me to do for them, as if they said it and said, give me money right now. You empty your wallet and give it to me. Like an empath will be like, I feel like I should walk up to this person and I should give them all of me, even though their intuition might be like, that person I can sense is like, they have a need, they have a hunger, they want somebody, but they might also be a shyster. But they'll squash down the intuition that said shyster alert, and instead go with the empathy part that says, but they want all of what I have to give. I should give them everything I've got, all my money, all my love. I should cherish them, put them on a pedestal. And it's like, wait a minute, you gotta figure out which is your empathic side from which is your intuitive side. I think she's gifted in both ways. And instead of sifting through that, she got pissed that she feels like she's been led astray, and she's needed to sift through the two differences here. And so she's constantly at war with herself, which is so interesting, right? It's like she walks right into things that are going to be painful for herself, and then is mad at herself for having done that, instead of realizing she's super gifted. And if she could listen to the signs a little bit better, even now, she knows about him, but she keeps saying, no, I don't think so. I'm probably wrong, because I'm always wrong. If I think somebody likes me, they don't. Or if they show me that they like me and I gravitate toward them, it turns out they just want to take something from me, and I just ran right to them and emptied my pockets for them. Again, she can feel who wants something from her, but she just didn't differentiate. Are they wanting something from me and wanting to reciprocate, and my intuition is telling me that? Or am I just empathetically saying, oh, this person is sending the vibe of give this to me, and so then I just feel like I must, zombie-like come toward them and give them everything that they want before they even have to ask for it. It's a blessing and a curse. Let me put it this way. For her, it's just a curse until she learns how to work with it. And this story, I'm not saying any of this is true. I'm a fictional storyteller all day. That's it. I have no wisdom to impart. I am not a psychic, so bear that in mind. This is just a story. But I will say it's a very compelling character. I really like seeing, we haven't had one where we broke it down like this before. We've had other things that touched on like empaths before, but this I think is a much clearer description of why does an empath get big pissed and start to shove away their own intuition, because they are insisting that they don't have it, or that their intuition is broken. But it's because they didn't consider intuition versus empath and know how to separate one from the other. Queen Bee, thank you, love. You are so generous. Thank you. Okay, let's take another look. Ace of Cups. Okay, this is actually a super important message. It says, how about if you turn off everything for just a second? This is what she needs to get to, and this could be happening for her around the full moon. Maybe she turns off all of the empath stuff, all of the intuition stuff, and just says, hey, self, what do you want? Maybe it's about time, instead of picking up on everybody else's energy, she just says, what do I want? What do I like? What do I love? Not who wants something from me, not confuse anybody else's vibe with mine, but let me just step back and pour my own self a drink for once. What would I want to drink if it's just me picking? What do I want to fill up this vessel with? What do I want to put into me? If she could just ask herself that might be it. By the way, she comes across as at least two different mermaids, right? which makes sense, the empath and the intuitive. And that's a very rare person. Oh, Chrissy, thank you, love. You are so sweet. Thank you. We got the Empress sideways. It is time to Empress up. It's time for her during this full moon to maybe just get clear on what she wants. And if she can't answer that for herself, or if she discovers like, I'm not allowed to just say that, that's so selfish, only think about me, then this is something to look at, right? This is a thing she needs to evaluate. Why do you say you're not allowed to have what you want in your own life? Why are you not allowed to ask your own self, what do you want? Just you. Don't consider anybody else for once in your life. And her response is, oh, that feels so wrong. But I gotta give to other people while I consider what I would want. No. Just you for a hot minute. Just you. Hanged Man. She's like, damn, I'm gonna have to sit and think about that. I gotta go get in the bathtub. Good, you do that. Do what you need to do to contact your own energy. 5 of Wands. Oh, this is so out of her comfort zone. She's fighting with herself. She's going round and round and round. She got a naked man on her mind, by the way, in both of those cards. Okay, so you want someone, huh? 9 of Coins. I want to feel good enough to believe that somebody wants me. That's like, oh, that's like a sword to my heart for her. If that's what she has to be able to finally believe about herself, if that's been the thing, maybe because of so many disappointments, maybe deep down she was harboring a thought. Remember, we started out that way. Her feeling around this full moon, like maybe there isn't anybody, maybe I'm just not the person who gets that, maybe this is why I haven't had a long-term partnership. We just kind of like got to that secret wound that she has carried, that maybe has also worked against her being empathic and intuitive and feeling everybody's emotions but her own, so she didn't identify where her own wound was. If this has been the real thing that she needed to get down to and actually know, sometimes we don't know what wound we carry or what fallacy is wrapped around that until we can uncover it, and then we can finally take it and say, I release this. This is some BS that I've been thinking about my own self. I'm not good enough to be with somebody. Somebody wouldn't want to pick me. Bullshit. That's ridiculous. I can't believe I've been carrying that around somewhere in my secret mind. And she doesn't get to reveal that to herself until she gets to the point where she quits feeling everybody else's energy, everybody else's wants, their needs, their what can I do for them? And she finally gets to get just a little bit selfish for herself and say, what do I want? And it's like, well, I never considered that because I never figured what I would want me back. Damn, that's a bad thought to have. And that's some bullshit. I am done thinking negatively. Secretly, she's been her own enemy without knowing it. And that is, I'm so glad that we are clearing this out. Remember, full moons are a great time to let shit go. Queen Bee, thank you again. Oh my God, thank you. You are so sweet. So beyond generous, honey. Thank you. We have the Fool. Finally, she just got free of maybe a lifetime of a secret buried thought that she had to go like drilling for. You know, this is so gross, but you know, if you've ever had like an infection, you get a cracked tooth and you maybe don't know it, but an infection gets way down deep in there and you get a little pocket of pus, a little abscess, and finally you're full on sick. And you go to the dentist and they're like, holy smokes, we got to do some antibiotics. We got to drill this out. You got to have a root canal. You got to have it crowned, the whole 9 yards. That's what she just did in this storyline. But she's doing it all in one big old swoop right around this full moon. This is like an epic like drill session where she is going to be so much better after this. Healed, prepared, ready. You know what? It's so interesting because this storyline started like it was all about him. And yet it turns out she had some big thing to work on in herself. He had to race around and around in the catacombs of his mind. She actually had to do the same. Let me ask this. Is that why he kept seeing her light? He kept saying, I'm so drawn to her. He feels a kindred spirit to her, right? But he also sees long-term connection to her. He's the one that is meant for her. But she wouldn't have been able to believe that anybody has these long-term attachments to her. And honestly, had she not gone through this change that she's going through right now, she could have sabotaged this even if he did come toward her, unless she was going through this deep drill session and kind of like releasing some of this. It's a damn good thing that these two didn't interact yet. Because he needed to go through his process, but she had to release this. Because imagine what would have happened if deep down she never believed anybody would really want to be with her, and she didn't even know that was a negative lie she held on to all her life. How would she believe that this person who then reaches out to her and maybe wants, he's already got long-term thoughts about her, but she's not going to believe it. She wouldn't be able to believe it. She wouldn't be able to believe that this is sincere, that he really cares about her, that he's drawn to her light. She would probably either sabotage it herself and ruin this relationship for herself and him, or they together would collapse this. I'm so glad that this has not happened yet, because until we get both of them in this heart and head space, they could not be good together. Now, some specifics for her, we do see a dove, or maybe birds as a whole. Petting a bird also. Some I always think this is such a I don't like lattice. Okay, I have like a vendetta against lattices in my lifetime. I just don't like lattice. I have no idea why. I don't get what my deal is with it. But this card has always annoyed the hell out of me. I think it's one of the ugliest 9 of coins cards I have ever seen in my life. I don't like anything about it because of the lattice. And I know that's a Kate issue. But I will say lattice could be a part of this. And yet this is a beautiful message that's coming out. But maybe, and I only, mentioned my vendetta against lattice because this is her letting go of something that was an ugly thought process that she held about herself. And now she stands in front of it. We don't have to look at that damn lattice anymore. But just another sign or symbol could be her, like turning her eyes away from something that she doesn't like. Something that had been like blocking her in a porous way, but blocking her nonetheless. And then we've got, I don't know, this feels very like perfect for Mardi Gras, perfect for like celebration. This is a Venetian kind of like, mask wearing as well. I'm hearing that song Masquerade, Painted Faces on Parade. Masquerade, there's another face behind you. Is that from it's a musical, right? Is that Phantom of the Opera? I'm hearing it with like a whole orchestra singing it. Now I'm hearing Anytime, Anywhere by Sarah Brightman, which, love, love, love that version. We've got Palace of Wands. This is a perfect way to end. Anytime, anywhere. At this point, guess what? Hearts are open. This is the heart. And if you notice up tall, we've got dragon sentinels here and here that were like guarding the gates of the heart. But at this point, their hearts are open, I would argue, to one another. I think that they finally have reached a point. She certainly has reached a point where she could let somebody love her. If he reaches out to her now, couldn't be better timing. And at this point, I would say anytime, anywhere. It's like whatever moment he wants to reach out to her, there's not going to be any blockage to her receiving the message at this point. Check it out. We got the lovers on the bottom of the card, or on the bottom of the deck, but let's get one just to round this whole thing out. 2 of Wands. It's just a matter of what day he does it. His thoughts are already headed her way. We see the migration of the camels going across the Sahara. 2 of Wands is, all right, so do I say it tomorrow, sunrise? When do I send this message? This is on his side. 6 of Swords in the reverse. All these words that he's got to send, he still hasn't sent them as we close this out, but we see him knowing he's got to get him off his chest. Yeah, he's going to have to match her in the Fool's energy. And this is, I'm thinking in 2 days he reaches out to her, which would be great because that is Mercury retrograde will hit on Friday. And this is, to my limited knowledge, Sufi dancers spin and spin when they are mimicking the movement of the planets, but it's a form of active meditation. By the way, my ears just popped and I didn't even know that I had so much head pressure. We've got storms where I'm at. So anyway, this could be like, talk about the rotation, talk about Mercury retrograde, talk about, coming full circle on something. And really, one thing I will mention with Mercury retrograde, no planet's ever going in the reverse. It's just that Mercury moves faster than we do, so it laps us. So the same way when we look at a clock and imagine, every time we pass 12, at some point it almost looks like now the hands of the clock are going in the reverse, but they never are. It's always going to denote passage of time, which time, distance, wisdom gained, life lived, more experiences under our belt, more thought processes that have been completed, and now maybe we have an opportunity to see life through a slightly different lens. So I'm thinking that there's something about this revolution. We know he had to think through a whole thought process and come back full circle. We know that she had to do some serious deep dive into something that was hidden to bring it to the surface and let it out. So it makes sense to me that this storyline, his actual communication with her, still needs about 2 days before he takes that leap of faith, because it has something to do with like completing the revolution. Like he's got to pass by 12. And it's like, this is his final, moments. She just got done with what she needed to do. So I feel like this is a great, like, take a pause, take a breather, take at least one morning and one evening before reaching out, is what it says here. All right, I'm going to leave this one here. You guys, thank you so much. I know, super long, super, super long. These are the ones that I prefer the most because it's better for me anyway to get to do an entire story. I feel like you get more nuances, and for some reason, these ones, to me, we get to uncover so much more about our characters and develop them a little bit. So you guys, thank you. Miss So the Peaceful Observer, great to see you. Denisa, hi, sweetie. Great to see you also. Ginger, oh, I'm so delighted you're here. Hi, Pauline. Shout out to you in the UK, my love. Ataraxia, thank you guys. You're so amazing. Nats, hi. Do you hate lettuce as well? I don't know why. I wish I didn't, but Moonlight Shadow, great to see you, and great name. What? Okay, so it was from Phantom. Thank you so much. Queen Bee, thank you so many times over. You've been so incredibly generous. Thank you, my love. Ken Ramey, how are you? I love it, Ken. You're on the go for it team. I love it. Hey, Patricia. Roxanne, hi. Shout out to you in Oregon. Happy St. Patty's Day to you also. That's the 17th, right? Yeah, we're close to that, aren't we? Chrissy, thank you again, sweetheart. Thank you so much. You are so generous. Tammy Secort's in the house. Hi. Thank you guys so much for giving it a thumbs up. I'm sorry, I always forget to say that. Sarah J, hi, honey. Ginger, are you in Newcastle? That's awesome. Mirabuka's in the house. Hi. Steven Gibson made it. I know, right? Steven, but at least in this one, at least by the end of this behemoth storyline, at least we got a little bit more detail on this one. That I was relieved about. It wasn't just like, oh, they're blocked, don't really know why. I was glad that this story fleshed it out more than most. Victoria Rose Noir, wonderful to see you. Blanca Ray, thank you for the hearts. Hi, Ruth. Zoe's in the house. Rodolfo Pujar. Patricia, you were first in the room today. Hi, Lulu. Hi, Mon. All right, you guys, really nice to see you all. Thank you again for all your generosity, everybody. That's so kind. So kind. All right, I will see you guys again on the other channel. We've got to get some of the zodiacs done because I still have 3 zodiacs that I didn't do yet for their full moon reading. And then this evening we'll jump into some retrograde messages and we'll start over with like Virgo and go through our big 5. All right, you guys. Bye. Thanks again.